How are we supposed to do anything that's worthy, completely perfect and worthy? We can't. But this isn't a path of perfection. This is a path of sincere devotion and having a go. The things I have done in my past mean that I don't consider myself worthy of a future on this band of the Guru. And this is not a decision for us to make. Our obstacle is not those decisions. Our obstacle is to get over the fear that's really holding us back and to just do our best. Who do we want to be? What do we aspire to be? As we bring that before the Guru will make that happen. Birti kade na hove, jan ki ardas. As we sit here and we reflect upon Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, who was a Monna well into their late teens, who couldn't read Gurmukhi, that they would take Amrit and within a couple of years, they would change the face of the entire earth. If there was ever an example less than a decade ago that we could relate to, that would set alight our fears and burn them away in front of us and allow us to take a step forward, is the example of Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji. Sad Sangat Ji, what is the best way that we can say thanks? The best thing that we can do is take steps that honor that example and light those lights everywhere. जो तो प्रेम खिलन का चाओ, सिर तर तली गली मेरी आओ, इत मार्ग पैर तरीजे, सिर दीजे कान न कीजे। परम सत्कार योग गुरु खालसा साध संगत जी, गज बज के फतेह बुलाओ। वाहे गुरु जी का खालसा, वाहे गुरु जी की फतेह। We're all blessed to be in the company of the Sadh Sangat, to be in the company of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj in their 11th form, in the Shabad form. That when the Siddhs would ask Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, be, if you're the Guru of the Sikh, be, who is your Guru? Be, tera kavan Guru jiska tu challa. Tera kavan Guru jiska tu challa. Be, who is your Guru that makes you a disciple of that person? And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj would give that teaching, be Shabad Guru Suratatona challa. That my Guru forever and has always been the Shabad. And we have a chance to sit in the company of the Guru, in the company of the Sangat, and reflect upon one divine being who has come into this world, that although their passing from this world in the physical sense is only 6 years ago, we can see the crater, we can see the damage that Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji did to Kaljug. The darkness of this world was lifted, and the Sikh Panth, the Naujawan, cannot deny the effect, the rejuvenation, the light that has come forth from the Sikhya, that Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would rejuvenate. And I use the word rejuvenate or draw forth, but not create. For the Khalsa Panth will always be resilient, will always be victorious. When we say the Guru's Fateh, we echo this everywhere. When we say Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, Sare Akho Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The victory was always evident and always inevitable. But the teachings that come to us from Bhai Jagraj Singh's life are all the more close to our heart, for oftentimes when we talk about historical figures, they're resigned to ancient history books in terms of our relative lifespan. And so we look to those examples and think about how the relevance could be, or how those things could be achieved now. And yet, all of these questions fall away when we think of Jagraj Singh, born in 1979, and acting out in this world perhaps younger than many of us are sitting as we sit before the Guru today. I remember meeting Jagraj Singh Ji, my older brother, at Boss Camp, the British organisation of Sikh students coming together once a year annually. I remember meeting Jagraj Singh at that camp, and he had been the year before. Prior to that, he will himself, if you watch the videos online, he will say he knew very little about Sikhi. He knew a little bit of understanding of the philosophy. He was an Oxford graduate in philosophy and politics, so obviously he was an educated man. But he would say from his own words that he didn't know much about the spirit aspect of Sikhi. And it was in that camp that Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would experience something that we're lucky to come to the Guru Kar, like we are today, or like many basics of Sikhi programs and other Katha programs that are happening through the youth across the country and across the world, to sit and do vichar and actually reflect upon why we are actually here. And I remember meeting Jagraj Singh Ji, and I was just a Monna then, so I used to have a short quiff, little blended sideburns, number 2 blended into the back. shockwaves gel in my hair, and I was there quite a cocky young lad. I think I was second year law. I was a second year undergrad over at Queen Mary's University. Sorry, I was first year undergrad, and very arrogant, and perhaps there really to just be rebellious and take the mick and really test everyone's patience. If you ask my family, not much has changed in that regard. And I remember being in the dorms and doing the opposite of what we were being told to do. And like, we were dancing around, prancing about. I think we were doing Bhangra, we had music on loud, and we were just basically just acting and playing up. And I remember seeing Jagraj, who was sitting in the dorm. We were in army barracks at the time. And I can still picture the smile on his face, his glassy eyes, the way he would look at you. And in his face, he could see, in my mind, he could see past the facade of this outward acting of this young bad who's acting kind of bad, but really there was an insecurity inside me at the time. It was just about putting on a front outwardly. But outside, I was smiling, but inwardly, there was something missing. I remember doing all of this to everyone's dismay, everyone's judgment, and everyone sort of crossing their heads and they're tutting. And Jagraj would just sit there and they were just smiling. They would never judge. They looked at us from the moment that I met him. He would look upon me as a younger brother. And he would never judge. He was always gently encouraging, sometimes perhaps biting his tongue when we're trying to provoke with a complicated situation. And he would always give that support. And that for me is an example to me as to what a perfect older brother should be. Someone that is constantly behind you, supporting you in your growth and your path. And Jagraj Singh Ji would teach us, and we would get together, and he would say to me, obviously being an Oxford graduate, he had our ear as we're coming into our professions. And he would say to me, I'm thinking that life is not all about just earning money and going down this path. As later you would see, he would abandon his 6-figure salary that he was on just to try to set up this charity from scratch. And Jagraj would come and visit us on another occasion in East London. And we would go to the Gurdwara in East Ham. There's about 5 or 6 of us that were getting together. I was still a Monna then, but my intrigue was raised by the fact that we've got this guy. He's an Oxford graduate. He could be anywhere. He could have walked into any job, and he keeps talking to us about this Sikhi. And at that point, I was just learning about Bart and learning about things like this. And we go to the Gurdwara and we go upstairs. And this is one of my first experiences in witnessing a spiritual experience. We went upstairs and we sat down in the Darbar. Those that know East Ham Guru Ghat down the road on Rosebery Avenue, they've got 2 Darbars. They've got the main Darbar that you walk into, and they've got the smaller Darbar on the first floor that not many people really go to unless they've got 2 programs going at the same time. And we sat down there. We started doing Simran. There were some Singhs from Hitchin who are still friends of mine to this day. And we sat down and we started to do Kirtan, me, Jagraj, and about 5 of the other Singhs. And after about 20 minutes, as you do, my legs started to twitch. Hadn't quite used to sitting in Jongri at that time, so I was still holding my leg up like this as my legs were stretching out, because the whole process of just sitting on the floor was new to me. Everything was new. And so after about 15-20 minutes, we decided to go downstairs and have a glass of water, maybe with the thought that we'd return upstairs. And so we go downstairs, and 15-20 minutes turned into a couple of hours as we're taking the mic, having a laugh, just messing around, maybe going to the shops and coming back. And after a while, someone said, "Where's Jagraj? I have not seen him for a couple of hours." And we went back upstairs to where we'd last left Jagraj, and he's sitting exactly where he was on the Vajja. And I remember walking into the Darbar, and his eyes are closed, and he's crying tears of Bairag. And he's reciting, "Ananda paya meri maaye, Sat Guru mein paya. Ananda paya meri maaye, be Ananda paya." I am now finding myself in Anand. What is Anand? Sare aako pehla Ananda. The language we should direct our mind towards is the goals that we seek to achieve. Anand is such a beautiful thing. If you're blessed to have the Nitnem upon your daily routine, every day you wake and you say Ananda. How many people have the blessing to do that? Who wakes in the morning of the world, of the 6 billion, of the 7 billion now, and gets to reflect upon Anand? This is the Nitnem of Sri Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj that we've been blessed with. If we're lucky enough to wake in the morning and recite this Shabad, be Ananda Paya Meri Maaye, be Sat Guru Mein Paya, we are instructing our mind. And science is catching up with it now. All of these new scientific techniques, be neuro-linguistic program, the idea that you can direct your mind to a goal. Be Ananda Paya Guru. The Guru is saying to us, be in the past tense, every morning wake and recognize, be you have been received, you've recognized your Guru, and your Guru has found you, and you have found your Guru. Be Ananda Paya Meri Maaye, Sat Guru Mein Paya, Sadgurta Paya Sehaj Seti, Man Vajya Vadaiyan. Jagraj Singh was crying tears of joy as he was reciting Ananda Paya Meri Mahe, Sat Guru Main Paya. For Jagraj Singh, there was no relief from that darbar to go downstairs, to go and play, to go and find some other relief in the world. The relief was in the Hazuri of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And Jagraj Singh would say to me, with a curious look upon his face, perhaps the only time I would see him confused, for his intellect was just beyond the average, beyond compare. He would look at me and be confused only on one occasion I can remember. He would say, Amandeep Singh, when you recite Anand Sahib, you don't feel Anand? I remember this vividly. When you do Anand Sahib the part, are you not in complete joy, complete elation that every part of your body is experiencing bliss? For Jagraj Singh, their jivan was such that they lived and breathed upon the Shabad. And so for them, whereas if you are here after a lifetimes of acting in a certain way, conditioning your mind to find Anand in a different place, that when you're in a purer place, that you won't necessarily appreciate that because we get conditioned towards what we like, right? So Jagraj Singh would look at this, and he, from a place of complete purity, he couldn't see how one could recite Ananta the part and not be an Anand. And so he would rely upon that Shabad, and that would be their source. And for me, that was such a example to me for where we should go. This is why it's so important. We have our itihas, and we have the Shabad. Why is our itihas so important? Because these examples bring what we hear in the Shabad to life. So when we say the words Sacha Naam Mera Adaro, the Naam, the Shabad of the Guru is Mera Adaro, is my support. That's a theory. But when I think of Jagraj Singh and I hear of that living example of that one who's living upon the Shabad, it's no longer a theory anymore, because we're seeing it lived out. We are seeing this lived out right now. As we sit in the Guru's Hazuri right now, who would deny that the Shabad is our support? See, it's very easy, whether you're in the presence of Jagraj Singh as a car's being driven and you're witnessing this, or in the company of the Sangat and you're hearing of that Gatha. This is the power of Gatha. This is why Gatha is so important, because Sunhar Gatha Uthari Mel. When you hear the Gatha, you're in the presence of that situation and you're being informed as if you were in the company at that time. And your male, that dirt, meaning that doubt, that suffering, that ignorance is removed. But how many times do we sit in the company of the Guru, we hear about the Shaheeds, and it's like the Shaheeds are with us. Gyani Sukhraj Singh Ji, my Ustad, would say, and I get to repeat this, I'm so grateful to repeat this, they would say to me, Amandeep Singh, know this to be true, that when you speak of the Shaheeds, when you speak of those great ones, Baba Deep Singh Ji, Bhai Mani Singh Ji, Bhai Taru Singh Ji, when we speak of our great Shaheeds, Baba Ajit Singh Ji, Baba Jagraj Singh Ji, when we speak their names and we have their yad within us, or we have their remembrance within us, we have their pera, we have their company. Akho Satanam Siri Vahe Guru Vahe Guru Vahe Guru Vahe Guru Vahe Guru. Sadsangat Ji, I've heard it said that people don't necessarily remember what you teach them, what you say to them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. This is taught to professionals, to lawyers when they're trying to persuade a jury. It's taught to people when they're in the care system. This idea that when you think of someone that you really care about, if you look at someone who's older than you, that spent a lot of time looking after you, and you have affection towards them, it's not something that they said. There's just a general feeling of warmth that you have when you think of that person, whether it's your nanny, your bibi, maybe it'll have been your mum or your dad, this particular person you have. If I say to you to think of them, you just thought, oh, that guy. Oh, she was so good to me. And it's not a particular line. And Jagraj Singh, being in the company of my brother, although they were the greatest Gathavajik, they were the creator of Gathavajiks. They are the one that kick-started the re-education, the re-enlightenment, the revolution that now sits before me today in the company of the Sadh Sangat, aspiring great professionals that are going to take the path forward. They're the creator of Gathavajiks, yet it's not their words that I remember most. It was their fragrance. How can it be that the greatest speaker of our generation, it's not his words that have influenced me, but what teaching is this, be the way that we should treat each other and the way that we should have, the pyar that we should have for each other will always exceed our words and our manipulations and our agitations. But you have those words of love, but let your actions, the way that you look, the way that you speak, the amount of respect that you show someone when they give you your energy, when you give them your energy, that they should reciprocate that, and they should be, and in that way understand that the real energy that we can have is our fragrance. Kar hi mein amrit bharpoor hai, man mukh sadhana paya. Guru Sahib says that within each and every one of us is this amrit that exists. Kar hi mein amrit, how much is it? You might think that some have got more than others, that within you this light is just a trickle, this is just a little trickle, a little stream. No, it's a beautiful wave, an ocean of amrit. How is it such? Bharpoor. Mara says it's overflowing within you. Kar hi mein amrit bharpoor hai. You've got within you so much sweetness that exists, that the potential for that to flow out with us, it's already there, just waiting to come out, that fragrance to be lit. Each and every one of us, kar hi mein amrit bharpoor hai, par manamukh sadhana paya. But as manamukhs, because we've been conditioned to look outwardly and not look within ourselves, we haven't got that sweetness. We're looking for Galaxy chocolate bars on the supermarket shelves. Unbeknownst to us, there's a sweetness that is so much more beautifying within. Jo kusturi mirg na jane, pramata param palaya. Maharaj gives the example. Okay, let me give you an example of how this is so. But outwardly we're looking, there's a deer that walks in the forests. The most beautiful of creatures. Anyone that's been or lives near Epping Forest, you go through the forest, you'll see this beautiful deer. Even today, hundreds of deer. Maharaj says there's an example of this mirg, this deer. And anyone that thinks of a deer, you'll notice they've got these beautiful, elegant, long necks that stretch up and out. And when they look up, it's like they're trying to catch a scent. And very much true. The deer spends its entire life just on the cusp of a scent that is directing its nose towards, which is why the deer looks up and around. And this musk scent is so intoxicating, the deer is looking everywhere, past this tree, past that tree, unbeknownst to the deer, and this is accepted in biology now, the glands of that deer itself is emanating that fragrance. But the deer doesn't have the intellect to look inwardly, Sadh Sangat Ji. Kar hi mein amrit bharpoor hai, the amrit is within, and the Maharaj is saying, Jo kusturi mirg na jane, just as that mirg can't capture the kustur, that beautiful fragrance that's coming from within, in this way we have to get at this param. And Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji was exactly that. I remember Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji once, I had a day off I was on my training contract, I think this is the second year of my training contract, and I had some time off. And so I phoned Jagraj, and he was going to a university to do a lecture. This is way before I even had it in my mind that we were going to be doing prachar. And we were going towards, and I said to Jagraj, I've got a day off, let me take you to, I think he was going to Warwick University at the time. And I said, let me come with you, let me drive you there, you can just read your notes and you can get ready. And on the way we were going towards a lecture. But Jagraj Singh Ji, as we were having a conversation, as we were having an exchange, I was talking to him and I was asking him questions, and we were having vichar. For me, this was the purpose of why I had gone to speak with him. He would give me a really valuable lesson, one which I'm happy to share with you at my own expense today. Jagraj said to me as we were on the way up, he cut me very short. He goes, Amandeep Singh, enough talking now, man. He goes, in other words, with his hands, he never spoke harsh words, but with his hands, he stopped the conversation behind Bhaskar. He goes, I'm going to deliver the Guru Shabad, because I've got to take from that. He goes, let's recite some Bani first. And he would take Dasam Bani, Shastra Naam Mala, and he would start reciting much Dasam Bani, because he recognized that it wasn't going to be intellectual, it wasn't going to be an intellect, it wasn't going to be the education that he had, as great as his education was from the greatest university of our country. It wasn't the intellect that was going to be imparted, because although he had knowledge and one of the greatest of knowledgeable people that he wasn't going there to pass knowledge, he was going to share the vibration of Naam. How can you give that which you have not charged yourself with? So he said, Amandeep Singh, whatever vichar you want to do, let's do before and I will do after. But let's now reflect upon the Shabad. Let's vibrate upon the Shabad of the Guru, which is why Sadh Sangat Ji, when we sit in the company of the Guru and we do Katha Vichara, we do this discourse, is to direct our mind, but we'll always break into Simran, because that is the purpose for which we should be directing our mind. Akho Satanam Sri Vahe Guru. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. Guru Nanak Dev Ji gives us the teaching, be sahesa siyana pala kohe ta ekana challe naal. That all of the cleverness, sahesa, all of the great things we might learn in this world, sahesa siyana pala kohe, even if you have all of them, if you have lakha, if you've got hundreds of thousands of gigabytes of information, of clevernesses, ta ekana challe naal, not one of those things are going to save you, not one of those things are going to be your support. And Jagraj, as knowledgeable as they were, they knew that higher knowledge, that none of that was going to serve them. And it was about their simran, and it was about having that nimrata. And no better example of the attitude that we need to relearn, no better example of this attitude of nimrata in the face of great knowledge and not being captured by it, no better example can be given than the one I'm going to share with you now. And this is something, Sadh Sangat Ji, we could all learn from. And it's something that we're being gripped by as a generation that we have to unravel from our mind. What is this? This right to an opinion. This right to be able to say, this is my thoughts on this subject. It comes to us so naturally. And for those that are younger than me, we've been born into a social media construct where every one of our platforms has a big white box in the middle that invites you to give your opinion. And so why would we possibly think that this is wrong? We live in a democratic country where we're entitled to vote, and this idea of having an opinion it's almost as though it's been enforced upon us, not even as an option, but as an obligation that you must voice your opinion. And nothing, Sadh Sangat Ji, from a perspective of Sikhya could be further from the truth. And you're probably maybe confused by this, but let's just go down the road of history and see such a wonderful example. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji is perhaps the most influential Sikh of our generation, of my generation, influencing millions across the entire world. Just one video of his has reached over 2 million people. And yet, when he was lecturing in the United States, this one example would be such a turning point for me, and it would give me such an understanding of how far we have got things wrong. And if we're captured by this, even then, it's a good point for us. It's a chance for us to rethink where we're going, take a few steps back, curtail, and then go at it again from a different angle. What example is this? Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji was lecturing at a university, and he was answering questions about Sikhi. And someone asked Jagraj Singh Ji a question about mixed faith marriages, interfaith marriages. In other words, whether you can come to the Gurdwara as a non-Sikh and partake in the Anand Karaj. This is a hot topic now, because people have got in some cases, bigger egos than humility, and bigger ideas about what they think is right than following the Guru's mat. And the question posed was, Jagraj Singh, do you think that people should be able to have interfaith marriages in the Gurdwara? Do you think that people other than Gursikhs should be able to get married in the Gurdwara? What's your opinion on this? And Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji is qualified, in my opinion, to have an opinion. Because he's a person who's dedicated his whole life. He's sacrificed every corporate opportunity to serve the Panth. He's very knowledgeable. He spent his time going to India, researching granths, taking Santya, all of the things that you should do to become educated. So when asked this a question, I'm listening with anticipation, perhaps as many hundreds of thousands have done watching these videos, be what's he going to say? Be what's his opinion going to be? But what Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji did was far greater than even the topic could have been. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say something that we could all learn from. He would say this. He said, Benji, it was an elderly sister that asked the question. He said, Benji, why would you ask me my opinion? What does my opinion have to do with any decision that you should make? Frankly, Benji, I'm not even interested in my opinion, and you shouldn't be either. I'm just paraphrasing it. Because we're only here, and the channel is only here, to spread the Guru's mat, to tell you what the Guru has said. Be aap gavaiye, ta soho paiye. Aap gavaiye, meaning to forget yourself. In this path of the Guru, aap gavaiye, ta soho paiye. You want to find your soho, you want to find your husband, Lord, as a soul bride searching after all of these millions of incarnations, of reincarnations of different life forms, the way to do so is to forget your own opinions and fall upon the Guru's path. We said right at the beginning, the mangal that we vibrated upon together as a sangat, that if you want to walk upon the path of love, you want to experience this bliss of the Guru, place your head on your palm, and come upon my path in this way. In other words, the head being a metaphor for your own understanding of things, but what you think might be the way forward. Sir tartali gali meri et marg pair tarije sir dije kana na kije. Give me your head, says the Guru, and don't worry about what other people's words are. But what teaching is this? Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, the most educated, the most influential person, received everywhere by thousands, is asked his opinion on the world stage, where everybody would take the microphone and not let it go until someone takes it off them. Bhai Jagraj Singh, with all humility, is saying, forget my opinion, sister. We go to the Guru. And Sadhu Sangat Ji, we have to understand that although this goes against everything we're being taught, and especially our children, it's going against everything our children are being taught. But what's your opinion? Have a voice, have a say. Let's see where any of those voices and those says in the spiritual context have got anybody in this world other than a dark place. When you start questioning your nitane because you know better. When you start questioning your diet because you know better. Guru Pyari Sadhu Sangat Ji, why are we coming to the Guru God? Why do we do Matha Tek? We should question whether we should do Matha Tek then, maybe? But we're saying to the Gurus, my Mat is yours. We take from me everything of mine that's short and fill it with all that blessing that you have to give. And so that was such a wonderful teaching. Now the idea of just having an opinion, before it seemed like such a right and entitlement and obligation, now we're questioning it. See how quickly a foundation of solid rock can just turn to dust when you're in the company of a Gurmukh. Sadhu Sangat Ji, how many times have we with so much conviction forced ourselves on others, only decades later, as the dust settles, as time has passed, you look back, actually I was a bit hard on that guy. You know what? Actually, if I could do it again, I'd do it differently. On the subject of interfaith marriages, the Akal Takht have made it clear. The Akal Takht have given that teaching, which is completely consistent with the Hukamnama of Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, that a Sikh may only give their daughter in marriage to another Sikh, whose house cannot be in any debt. So there's no questions here, there's no room for an opinion here. And so the quicker that we realize this and forget our own opinions, we won't be arguing with other people, we'll be too busy standing behind them saying, how can I support you? What do you need? Yo, how can I serve you? Sadhu Sangat Ji, the quicker we can give up our egos, which are reflected through opinions, let's think about it. The word opinion sounds so harmless. What is it really when we say, well, I think you're wrong? It's just an argument, an agitation. It's a place to disagree and create discord. It's a place to create disagreement and discord. Sadhu Sangat Ji, there's no need for our opinions. When we come to the Guru, bhi aisa Satguru je mile. Aisa Satguru je mile, tisno sir sopiye, vichoho aap jai. Says Guru Amritas Ji Maharaj that, if you're lucky enough to come into if you're lucky enough to find a true Satguru, be aisa Satguru je mile, tisno sir sopiye, be chop off your own head, says Guru Amritas Ji Maharaj. Meaning before your ego gets you and you start saying, actually I don't need this Guru, before you get taken by dubda, by doubt, remove your own mat from that situation and be grateful that you sit in the company of the Guru and forget that you even exist. Vichoho abjai. Sounds harsh, but the Guru is being harsh to save us for something that is far more deadly, far more poisonous, far more harsh, our own ego. Sadhu Sangat Ji, you want to know what harsh is? Live through your ego for the next 20 years. See how lonely you are without no fragrance of love around you. Then you'll know what a harsh wasteland is. You think the Guru's being harsh? Live by the Guru's Sikhya, and these words might seem harsh on your ears for a split second. If it informs your actions, we lower our chin, lower our gaze, and come from a place of humility. And in 20, 30 years' time, when we have the Sangat around us, and that harshness that seemed so harsh actually was a blessing, and it got you in shape to what you do, to do what you had to do, you'll actually look at those words and you think, actually, that weren't very harsh at all. But that was a blessing, that was a Sikhya. Guru Sahib says, Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, I was listening to their katha today, looking upon their beautiful face. And Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji was talking about the attitude that we should have. Je gur ke chirke ta meetha lage. That if the Guru speaks words that are emboldened upon our mind, that seem harsh, je Guru ke chirke, that the Guru is like shaking you with what is seemingly apparent, that mittha lage, that even that is mittha. And je Guru bakshe, and if the Guru chooses to forgive you, that is their vadiyai, that is their greatness. What a wonderful way to live. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji is saying that if the Guru is being harsh to me, I'll take that shot. It will be a conditioning shot that will make me stronger for tomorrow. Sadh Sangat Ji, what does the Guru say to us about the importance of Naam? Jin har hirde naam na basyo, tin maat vijay har banja. Maharaj says, Jin har hirde, those that don't do Simran, those that don't vibrate upon the name of God, Jin har hirde naam na basyo, tin maat vijay har ganja, har banja. Maharaj says, those people that don't recite the name of God, it would have been better had their mothers been sterile. Maharaj is saying to us that if you don't wake in the morning and sit and do Simran, there was no point in you being born. And I was listening to Katha from Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji today, and they were explaining this in their own way. They're saying the very purpose for which we have come into this earth, the very purpose for which we have been born into this very difficult life that we've obtained, is to vibrate upon the name of God, that we can become liberated from this cycle of birth and death. Maharaj says, Pai parapata manuk de horiya, gobind milinki eh teri bariya. Bari does not mean opportunity. This YOLO mentality that's being inflicted upon us, that you only live once, or if you're going to be born again, chalo, come back next time. But this is your bari, this is your turn. This is not something that's going to come back in a hurry. This opportunity to come and reflect upon the name and the company of the Sangat is what will deliver us from this cycle of reincarnation and allow us to become one with that Ananda. Sare akho Ananda. Ananda. Sadh Sangat Ji, if we just close our eyes for a second, I've got a questionnaire, which I thought was very interesting. It was by an American speaker, one of the most respected speakers of the previous century. His name was Jim Rohn. And he put these 2 questions so succinctly that I thought I'd share them with you today. The question we have to ask ourselves, the first question is, what is it specifically that I want to achieve in this life? Just sit with that for a moment. And if it's uncomfortable, that's cool, because that means we haven't perhaps considered it, but that's okay, because we can consider it today in the Sangat. But what is it specifically that I want to achieve in this life? What is it that I am aiming for? And if I don't know, what is it that I should be aiming for? That's the first question. So just to dwell upon that for another 30 seconds, we can go all the way through GCSEs, higher education and further education with nobody sitting us down and asking us to ask ourselves this question. In other words, is a jag mein aake kya tud karam kamaya. With your eyes closed, I'll just translate that for you. I've come into this body of mine and into this world. Is a jag mein aake kya tud karam kamaya. What is the purpose for which I am here? What is it that I'm supposed to do? What have I done? If there's a big blank, we're going to fill that blank. We're here not to leave with questions. We come to the Guru's Darbar to have the answers. Maharaj makes it clear. They say, the purpose for which you've come into this world, Gobind Milinki, is to meet Vaheguru, Akal Purakh, to become one with the Charan of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, and to fall completely and utterly in love, and to experience a bliss within that is hitherto unmatched in the world. There's no other purpose, says the Guru, before your mind says, yeah, but I thought X, Y and Z. All you have to do to achieve that is come into the Sangata, Bhaj Keval Naam. And Keval meaning only, Naam. All you have to do is vibrate upon the Naam. Vaheguru. 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 Sadh Sangat Ji, the first question be, what is the purpose for which I have come? If there was any doubts before, there should be no doubts now. If there were any other goals, they should be replaced by this one. We've just explored the idea of your own opinion. If it wasn't this opinion, this is the Guru speaking, make a decision. Are we a Sikh of the Guru? If our understanding of why we are born conflicts with that, you have to reconcile your situation and make a decision. Am I a Sikh of the Guru? If I'm a Sikh of the Guru, then I want to walk this path of love and I want to be in such a bliss. And I want my purpose to be realigned with the Guru's teachings of what my purpose should be, which is that I should become one with Parmeshwar, Vaheguru. So the first question then is, what is it I'm here to do? We're all clear on this if we weren't clear before. By the Guru's Sikhya. This is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of the Guru's Sikhya. Now the word opinion seems so dirty, we would never want to say it again like it's a foul word. The Guru's Sikhya informs our factual understanding of our purpose in life. There's no opinion here. The question I have to ask you, Sadh Sangat Ji and Amandeep Singh, I'm only speaking to myself. I have no right to direct the Sangat. I'm 50,000 times behind all of you. The next question, Sadh Sangat Ji, of this two-part questionnaire is, what am I doing on a daily basis to achieve the objective that I have just accepted? What am I doing to achieve that objective? Sadh Sangat Ji, let's start living, man. Let's keep our gaze. Let's give up whichever intoxicant is that's holding us back. Let's start doing our Nitnem. We know what we got to do. Not for any other prescription, but a release so that we can become truly liberated from this life. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would cry tears of joy. You Google their picture after they kept their gaze. It's no coincidence that nearly every single photo that's been captured by somebody as he's walking, he's got a big smile on his face. But don't we want to smile those tears? Don't we want to cry those tears of joy? This is not in any way a restriction on our way of living. People keep misunderstanding this. No one's telling us to give up a happiness to follow Sikhi. That statement is so disjointed and is such a failing unto itself. The purpose of life is to experience such a true bliss that all these other tastes, they fall by the wayside. So Sadh Sangat Ji, the question we have to ask ourselves is, who do we want to be? Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say the single greatest thing that we can do if we care about the Sikh Panth is to become worthy of joining it. I'm paraphrasing their words, but they would say, if you look outwardly and you think the future's bleak, you see people attacking us, we see Christian missionaries in Punjab directly attacking and trying to, through misdirection, sending Christians to the Gurdwara with turbans on, trying to misdirect and convert. We have issues of grooming here. If we see all these issues here, we're constantly being the subject of an attack. People trying to take us, they see us as a threat. They see us as something so bright and shiny that they would like to assimilate us into their way. It's actually a compliment, really, that everybody wants a part of the Sikh Panth as part of their own. But Jagraj Singh would just say, the best thing that we can do, if we see that our house is on fire, the best thing that we can do to put that fire out is to become worthy of that house. Let's keep our gaze. Let's think about Bandi Chhod Divas, which is only a blink away. But are we taking Amrit on that day? Are we going to commit between now and then? We're going to learn another Bani off by heart. Sadh Sangat Ji, how will we explain to our children when they hear about Anand from somebody else, when they're 30, 35 years old, when they come to ask you, why didn't you ever tell me about this Sikhya? You sent me to King's College, but you never taught me about who I really was inside. How are we going to explain this to our nephews and nieces? Sadh Sangat Ji, how are we going to explain it to ourselves if we don't give ourselves this opportunity to seek that Anand? And then the question then comes, and this is perhaps the biggest single piece of Sikhya that I would hear that would change the direction of my life. I remember looking at Jagraj, being so in awe of this Gursikh, this beautiful, bright, like sorcerer, wizard, like Gandalf, yeah. And I was like, yeah, this path of doing prachar is for people like you. You know, it's not for people like me. For anyone that knows me, I've got a checkered past. You know, I wouldn't consider myself worthy to be here, but this is what I would hear. And this last Sikhi I'm going to just share with you now before we finish up this vichar and we go down after Sukhas and we go downstairs for the question and answer session. Jagraj Singh was doing Katha once, and I remember this vividly. And if anybody has come across this Katha, please send it to me, because I saw it online and I've not yet since seen it. And if anybody knows or if they see the video that I'm going to refer to now, I'd be really grateful if you could forward it to me. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say this, and it would completely get me to stand up and get off the bench. I was sitting on the bench thinking that this prachar, this life of sharing the Guru's teachings is only for those great people. And the subject matter that was being discussed was the greatest general of the Panth of the previous century, Sant Jarnail Singh Ji Khalsa, Pindranawale. And the question came up as somebody was asking them, do you think that Sant Ji has left this world? Do you think that they became Shaheed? Because in 1984, when the Golden Temple was attacked, when the Darbar Sahib was attacked, and 38 other Gurdwara were ransacked and hundreds of thousands lost their lives in their homes, that when that happened, there was no recovery of Sant Ji's body. And so some people say that Sant Ji has gone into Tapasya and they're going to come back. And others talk about Sant Ji becoming Shaheed. But the Indian government didn't want to give the body up because that would have given more room for more uprising. There's different connotations there. And so the question was asked to Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, what do you make of it? Or that was the conversation that was taking place. And Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say this, and I thought, where's he going to get? And he's going to get in trouble either side now. If he says that Sant Ji's become Shaheed, there'll be people upset. If he says Sant Ji is still around, then there'll be people that are upset, depending on their beliefs. It's such a hot, emotional topic. So what does Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji say, and how would that influence me to become a Kathavajik? Or try and learn this path. I wouldn't consider myself a Kathavajik. I'm still learning. I'm still a student today. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say this, and I'll leave you with this, Sadh Sangat Ji. He would say a lot of people will say that Sant Jarnail Singh Ji has become Shaheed. A lot of people will say that they are in Samadhi, that they're in Anand. He will say a lot of people will speak of this way or that. He goes, I'm going to just crack on and do the best that I can. And if Sant Ji would come back, then I can step back and they can take my place. Do what you can. In your houses, you might not be the greatest example, but you can be an example. If you can come to the Guru Kar and do seva, you might want to be the greatest person at that seva, but if there's nobody doing it, do what you can. If someone better comes along, step up. You can step aside. And so for me, that was an instruction. I don't consider myself worthy of this prachar, but if somebody better would come along, or somebody that would step up and say, Amandeep Singh, I'm ready to crack on, we can step aside, but we've got to just do our bit. So this path isn't about being worthy, for nobody's worthy to do the ustad of the Guru. Maharaj says, Tu sultan kaha ho miya, teri kavan vadiyai. Maharaj says, your worthiness, your acclaim is that of an emperor, and my best praises only amount to calling you a king. Because I can't even sing your praises without getting it wrong. All I can get to is king status with my words, but you're an emperor. Meaning we can't even sing the praises of Parameshwara. How are we supposed to do anything that's worthy, completely perfect and worthy? We can't. But this isn't a path of perfection. This is a path of sincere devotion and having a go. So there are many that I've spoke to and they say, I want to keep my case, but I'm not sure I can represent. Or do you know what? The things I have done in my past mean that I don't consider myself worthy of a future on this Panth of the Guru. And this is not a decision for us to make. Our obstacle is not those decisions. Our obstacle is to get over the fear that's really holding us back and to just do our best. Be who do we want to be? What do we aspire to be? As we bring that before the Guru will make that happen. Birti kade na hove, Janki Ardas. So Sadh Sangat Ji, as we sit here, and we reflect upon Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, who was a Monna well into their late teens, who couldn't read Gurmukhi well into their late teens, who didn't even know the Nityanem well into their late teens, 18, 19, 20 years old, before they even picked up a Gurkha Sahib. That they would take Amrit and within a couple of years, they would change the face of the entire earth. If there was ever an example less than a decade ago that we could relate to, that would set alight our fears and burn them away in front of us and allow us to take a step forward, is the example of Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, my brother, our brother. Sad Sangat Ji, what is the best way that we can say thanks? Everybody, when I see Jagraj Singh, wherever I go in the world, there's no Guru Kar that I get invited to across the world when we're invited by the kindness of the Sangat to Katha, where someone says, let me sit you down, let me tell you about Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, how they changed my life. Even downstairs as I came in today, I met a lovely sister. And she said, I was watching Jagraj's videos a year ago and they brought me into Sikhi. She's from a different faith. And she goes, I found out 6 months into that journey that he passed away and I would cry tears of joy in my own house. Sad Sangat Ji, we can cry tears of joy out of Bairag. The best thing that we can do is cry tears of Bairag. But let's take steps, let's honor that example and light those lights everywhere. And on that point of lighting lights, Sad Sangat Ji, as we bring this divan to an end, Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say, where it's completely dark around you, when you have no Sangat around you, when there's just darkness everywhere, meaning that this seems like it's completely impossible for you to walk this path. Because just remember this, in complete pitch black darkness, Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji would say that even a small tea light, you know what tea light is? Those little lights you can buy, like for £1 you can get like 5,000, yeah, like little lights. Even a tea light can be seen in that great darkness. Meaning that in the darkest of times, it means there's an opportunity for each and every one of us to shine. So Sad Sangat Ji, the ardas is going to happen now after we do Shepuri and Anand Sada Part. But let it be in our hearts that we do an ardas to Maharaj. Be Maharaj, make me worthy, man. Let me not miss this opportunity. Be abarakaj, dedicate nakam. I know nothing else is of any value. Be let me take this simran upon my heart. Be inform me as you did my brother. Do get about upon me. Then I know from the examples of Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji that which seems so difficult, almost impossible, is already done. Be Ananda Paya Meri Mai, Satguru Mai Paya. So Sad Sangat Ji, there was so much more that I wanted to speak to you about Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji. If we had another hour, the stories wouldn't run out of their greatness, of their beautiful fragrance. Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, you've passed from this world in the physical sense, but you've become one with that Creator. You're part of that Anand that you described to me so many times. I'd like to just say thanks to you now. As you sit in the company, as we sit in your company, as you have become one with that force which is all around us. We thank you for setting the bar so high. We should remember where we come from. And for me, that means remembering recent history too. We thank you for the example you've given to me. Thank you for the example you've given to all of us and raising that bar so high. We can only do justice to you by following the example. And may we even surpass your example by the blessings of the great Shaheeds, by the blessings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, that we can become one with those teachings, that we can realize who we really are inside. So Sad Sangat Ji, once again, you are the Sangat of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. I ask for your forgiveness and your blessings, that one day we can become worthy of those teachings. Be lekhe kathena chutiye khin khin pullan har baksan har bakshale nanak paryotar. Vaheguru Ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki fateh.